Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We continue, inshallah, our videos expressing the misconceptions and the clear doubts about Islam. To reach that point, which is really highly important, that is, isn't Islam fatalistic? This is the question or the doubt. Actually, Muslims know that all things are from God, Allah, the Creator, the Exalted Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and occur by His will. And thus they tend to worry less about material matters and view the life of this world in proper perception or perceptive look. A Muslim believer relies completely on God subhanahu wa ta'ala and knows that whatever happens is always for the best, whether he recognizes it or not. And so he graciously accepts whatever cannot be changed. However, this does not mean that a Muslim sits around awaiting destiny and takes no positive action in life. On the contrary, Islam demands action and effort to change every undesirable situation. And this is a requirement of the faith. It totally rejects the teaching that one should not go to a doctor if he is ill, but only pray to God subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Exalted, for cure. So he is taking cause for curing, which is going to the doctor. But the reality is that he's praying to God, the real curer, for his cure. And if human being had no ability to act, God could not justly accept them to do and not to do certain things. Far from being fatalistic, Islam teaches that man's main obligation in life is to exert effort in obedience to God subhanahu wa ta'ala, which includes seeking benefit and avoiding harm. Again, for point to be understood, far from being fatalistic, Islam teaches that man's main obligation in life is to exert effort in obedience to God subhanahu wa ta'ala, which includes seeking benefit and avoiding harm. Islam teaches that human beings should take positive action in life and supplement it with prayer. Some people are lazy and careless and then blame the negative result on destiny or fate. Some even say that if God had willed, they would not have sinned or committed crimes. They are saying that God is the cause, and if He wants to let me be not committing such sin or crime, He would do it. Some blame the negative result on destiny or fate. Some even say that if God had willed, they would have not sinned or committed crimes. Actually, all this is entirely incorrect, because He has provided complete guidance and instruction on how to live and has ordered upright conduct at all times. It's very important, this point, actually. Actually, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has provided complete guidance and instruction on how to live. And He has ordered upright conduct at all times. God subhanahu wa ta'ala has not ordered anyone or anything. He hasn't ordered anything that man cannot do or prohibited anything he cannot avoid, because His justice is complete and perfect. Again, because this is highly critical point to be understood. Nobody is enforced to do good or bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, has provided complete guidance and instruction on how to live, and He has ordered upright conduct at all times. God has not ordered anything that man cannot do or prohibited anything he cannot avoid. Why? Because He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, His justice is complete and perfect, and each individual is held responsible within the limit of his own ability, but not beyond it. Each individual is held responsible. He is held responsible within the limit of his own ability and not beyond it. And although our deeds and our destiny are decreed by God and known to Him, it doesn't mean He completes, He compels it. It doesn't mean He compels us to do anything. Rather, He willed to give us options about our course of action. And thus, whatever decisions to make are within the framework in His will. Again and again. Although our deeds and our destiny are decreed by God subhanahu wa ta'ala, He decreed it because He is the creator. So He knows that this is going to commit a sin or not. So although our deeds and our destiny are decreed by God subhanahu wa ta'ala and known to Him, it doesn't mean He compels us to do anything. We aren't enforced. Rather, He willed to give us options about our course of action. And thus, whatever decisions we make are within the framework of His will subhanahu wa ta'ala. God knows what every person will choose to do, and then He allows him to do that. He is facilitating those who want to be obedient. He is facilitating them to be obedient and facilitates for them the ways to help them being obedient. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْحُسْنَى وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. Allah is going to facilitate both committing sins and doing righteous deeds according to the will of the slave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what every person will choose because He's the creator. He subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what every person will choose to do, and then He allows him to do it, while not necessarily approving of his choice. He is facilitating, but not necessarily approving of his choice. This is very important. While He doesn't call anyone to account for what is beyond His control. Human beings are indeed responsible for every free choice they make, and they will find the consequences of their choices and actions in both this life and the next. It's very important, this point. Whatever inside your intention are aiming to do, in spite you may not show that, Allah knows. He's the creator. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while He does not call anyone to account for what is beyond His control, human beings are indeed responsible for every free choice they make. And as a result of that, they will find the consequences of their choices and actions in both this life and hereafter, the next. Cause and effect is a natural law created by God subhanahu wa ta'ala to be utilized by His creatures. Cause and effect. It is the law by which one's destiny is determined. So the destiny of each individual is predetermined by God. But it is also the direct result and consequence of his or her own choice and actions. And this is what the Creator has willed and decreed. It's very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't enforce anybody to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being the Creator, He knows. Cause and the effect is a natural law created by God to be utilized by His creatures. And it is the law by which one's destiny is determined. And so the destiny of each individual is predetermined by God. But it is also the direct result and the consequence. The direct result and the consequence of his or her own choice and action. And this is what the Creator has willed and decreed. Now come another question. Are there sects in Islam? Actually, Islam is one path, has one direction, and is based on one methodology. That which Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, may Allah exalt his mention, taught according to the instruction he received from his God, the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. The religion God ordained for the mankind was meant to be a unifying factor. And in fact, He addressed mankind in the Quran saying, "And this is my path, which is straight, so follow it, and do not follow other ways, for they will separate you from His way." And it is in chapter 6, verse 153. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 153, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And this is my path, which is straight, and so follow it. And do not follow other ways. Why? Because they will separate you from this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator way. The subtitle change in the verse from first to third person, expressing the progressive process of distancing oneself from God's path. This is the important point. Allah's way, Allah's path is one, which is straight, and Allah said, follow it. And don't follow other ways. For why? Because they will separate you from this correct, straight path, God's path. Subtitle change. In the verse, from first to third person, expresses the progressive process of distancing oneself from God's path. This divine command emphatically makes it binding on all Muslims to be united as one community of believers, and thus all forms of Sikhism and sectarianism are un-Islamic. This is very important. Yes, nowadays there is sects, but this is not the correct way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say that. The Prophet's companions and following generations adhered very closely to the path of Allah, and thus He protected them. He protected them from separating in this manner. But with later generations, certain factors led to the emergence of divisions and diversions. Among them, increasing concern with the worldly affairs, the influence of non-Muslim cultures, the political changes. Initially, some small groups split off from the path adhered to by the majority of Muslims. They introduced innovations into the religion and followed opinions differing from the original teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. These Sikhisms were rejected and opposed by the recognized scholars of Islam and the majority of Muslims, which meant that initially they were contained and that their influence did not become widespread during the major part of Islamic history. The majority of Muslims remained on the Sunnah. The Sunnah, a Sunnah is one who takes his religion. A Sunni, a person called Sunni, is one who takes his religion from the Quran and Sunnah, which is the authentically narrated teachings of Prophet Muhammad, may Allah exalt his mention. He takes that as practiced by him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his righteous followers. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam path, and whenever forms of deviation emerged among them, the pious scholar always hastened to oppose them and point out their error. Prophet Muhammad, may Allah exalt his mention, foretold that such divergences would emerge, and he warned against Sikhism and instructed Muslims to remain within the main body of Islam. Nevertheless, over the centuries, a number of people have deviated and corrupted their religion and forming sects that claim to belong to Islam, but actually whose stated beliefs are clearly contrary to it. Some have distorted the concept of God and attributed to him what is unfitting or incompatible with his divine status, claiming, for example, that everything in existence is God, or that he is incarnate or present within his creation, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, which is not right at all. While the Quran states that he subhanahu wa ta'ala is superior to his creation and distinct from it, he is the first from his creation. And some have been misguided regarding various major tenets of Islam, to the degree that they no longer submit to God or obey him, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, while others have innovated and changed some of the prescribed forms of worship. Those sects which deviated from mainstream Islam are not the same as the schools of Islamic jurisprudence from Islamic jurisprudence, which is the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi'i, the Hanbali schools, and a few others less known, which developed within it and are based on the immutable principles of the faith. These eminent schools of thought have provided a vision of the highest degree of scholarship for Islamic legislation and serve to complement one another. The differences and the disagreements within the framework of Islam do not become matters of partisanship and intolerance. They do not become matters of intolerance except among the extremely ignorant. This means that in spite there are sects, but it is not the majority. Differences and disagreements within the framework of Islam do not become matters of intolerance or something uncontrolled, except among the extremely ignorant. Islam recognizes the individuality of human being and that not all diversity of opinion and difference in analysis is negative. However, the kind of dissension that leads to division and secularism has been denounced in the Quran. Quran told us that indeed those who have divided the religion and become sects, you Muhammad are not associated with them in anything. Their affairs is only left to Allah. Then He will inform them about what they used to do. And that is in chapter 6, 159. In chapter 6, which is Al-An'am also, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ فَرَّقُوا دِينَهُمْ وَكَانُوا شِيَعًا لَسْتَ مِنْهُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ يُنَبِّئُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. Allah is saying that indeed those who have divided their religion and become sects, you Muhammad are not associated with them in anything, and their affairs is only left to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then He will inform them about what they used to do. Finally, although Muslims now appear to be divided more than ever before, the number of divisions in Islam remain fewer than in other religions. One can still find many Islamic associations calling people to truth, proclaiming God's original message, and naming against that which is contrary to it. Salvation does not depend on affiliation within any specific group, but rather on true faith proven by obedience to God and upright conduct in the manner revealed by Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, this is highly important, that although Muslims now appeared to be divided more than ever before, yet the number of divisions in Islam remain fewer than other religions. And one can still find many Islamic associations calling people to truth, proclaiming God's original message, and naming against that which is contrary to it. Salvation does not depend on affiliation with any specific group, but rather on true faith proven by obedience to God and upright conduct in the manner revealed by Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will stop here inshallah to continue next video. Hope to be the final one إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.